Hey everybody, this is Carlo Navarro. Welcome to the podcast. Today is a very special episode because normally me and Jonathan Darling would co-host this podcast. And today the tables are somewhat turned. I am still on the host side, but we're going to have Jonathan as the guest today because he brings so much to the table from what this podcast is all about, the message we want to bring to sales and marketing. And he's here today. I'm so excited. I woke up early to prepare for this, and I hope he's ready. And for those of you who don't know, he's such a great friend of mine. He's a mentor. Jonathan has really deep reflections and conversations on leadership in business, in life. He's an author. I hope we'll talk about that a little bit. He's a father of three, devoted husband, and a believer, important of all things. So, welcome, Jonathan, as the guest.
That's some introduction, my friend. I appreciate it. Like, that sounded so good. I got my notepad and pen out ready to take notes just from the introduction.
Oh my gosh.
No, really appreciate it, man. Obviously, being able to be at a point in our lives and in our journeys where we get to do something like this together, talk about things that we're incredibly passionate about, and bring the different aspects that we've learned through life and the different values and perspectives together. It's such an honor to be able to do this with you, man. So it's cool to be the guest, and I can't wait to be the one interviewing you next.
Well, let's I'm excited for this one first. So I just want to jump right into it, right? And so leadership. You have often said that you don't have to be in a leadership position to be a leader, right? And there's so many things to draw from that statement. What does that statement mean in life and in business for you?
Yeah. Carlo, that's something for me that I learned a long time ago during my sales journey. When I first got into sales, I was a distributor sales rep. I'd been in the fitness industry beforehand, but in B2B sales, got into distributor sales, selling janitorial supplies and packaging supplies and equipment. And the only thing that I ever really wanted to do was lead a team. I wanted to be a sales manager. I wanted to lead a team and help people like me who were given a shot in sales to be successful. And for about 5 years, my focus for several years was being the best at what I did, crushing my numbers, destroying everybody, being the best of the best. It was me alone. And I was told by a friend of mine and a mentor of mine, Matt Johnson. He said, John, leadership isn't about title, power, status, being the best, crushing everybody, winning every time. He said, leadership is about how can you be a positive influence in someone else's life? How can you help? Yep. How can you help the people around you crush it and destroy their numbers and be the best and win the most? And he said, you don't need a title to lead that way. And just that conversation, Carlo, it took me on this journey of really wanting to discover what that looked like and starting living that out. And today, almost 10 years later, to that conversation, I can sit here and say that I have led in so many ways and been put on stages as an expert talking about leadership, been interviewed on international radio, podcasts, all types of things, talking about how to lead with love, which is service, and just how do we love and care for others. And I just believe that is the difference in business. I believe it's the difference in sales. I think when we start understanding that all of this is about how we use our gifts, talents, and skills paired with our products, services, and solutions to go out and serve the people that we love to serve, it success is the byproduct of that. And so, and that all starts with people learning how to lead, and from, a titleless position, if you will.
Yeah, that's interesting because, when people hear sales, it people have a sort of allergic reaction when they
Sure.
hear the word sales or salesperson, saleswoman, salesman. It's sort of this dirty word about, in the business that all they care about is money. But you're taking a really different position out of that, saying that it's more service than being, than self-serving, right? And
Yeah.
where did that come from? Was there an experience that led to that during your early selling experience, during your early business, or was it what maybe you were on that side before, like you said, where cash was king, or selling crushed everything? Like, was there a moment that made you kind of flip that switch?
Well, that is such an interesting question, because yes, I very much so was cash is king, make the money, like blowing out my commissions. Like there was never a time that I wasn't over 100% of plan on every aspect of my plan. Never have been. It's still never happened. And because I'm like, pay me my money. Like, let's do this thing. But it's really crazy, Carlo, because I can say that's how I feel about that side of it. But I've always done it this way. I've always been someone who just builds relationships with as many people as I possibly can, and figuring out how I can help them, and how I can use what I've been given to help them. And I don't think that I understood it from the position that I understand it from now. I just knew the importance of going out and meeting as many people as possible, and finding ways to help them. And it started as a little kid. I've just I remember going to nursing homes as a little kid with my dad and my sister. My dad would play guitar, and my sister and I would go and we would sing hymnals to a lot of these elderly people and special needs folks. Every week in the summer we were doing this at multiple different nursing homes. And I just always remember that conversation with my dad. Like, my dad didn't get paid to do it. It wasn't something that he did. And I was like, Dad, why do we do this all the time? And he goes, son, when you're given a gift, that gift is to be used for other people. And we've been given the gift of being able to play and sing and do these things. And he said, these people sit in there and they don't have people that come in and do this type of stuff for them and help them remember this stuff and do all this stuff. And this helps them get through their days. And so from a very young age, I was just taught that, like, when you see people in need, you do something about it. When you are around people, you see people, you interact with people. And my parents have told me stories my entire life of, me knowing every single person at the McDonald's that my grandpa would take me to all the time. They knew who I was, and I knew who they were, because I would just come in and talk to everyone, and everyone all, always felt like I was their best friend, and I cared the most about them. And yeah, it's just, but I believe all of that helped me lead to, this is just how I do. I interact with people. I find ways
How you
to help
feel,
them.
yeah.
And, you do it.
And that feeling, what you're saying is really, again, really intriguing to me, because when you mentioned the word the gift, and do you feel like, do you think salespeople fall short because they feel like they don't have, I guess, the solution, and feel like they're serving with their solution to the right person, and it's sort of a force? Because I've been in that position in sales when I was early in my career, and like many salespeople, I didn't succeed right away. It was very, not traumatizing, but you're sort of left out there. You're like, do I really care? One, do I really care about what I'm selling, or do I care about the people that I'm serving? at the end of the day, what I really wanted to care about was hitting my metric, whatever that was set for me, so that I couldn't fail. How do you, with your experience in leadership and now bringing it into sales, how do you talk to someone in this positions that say is new to sales and they're given this task and
Mhm.
here you go, and how do you lead them in a way where they understand their sort of value in this marketplace?
Yeah. So, when I came into the distribution industry, and I would love to say that 13 years, 14 years later, however long it's been, um, that this method has changed, but it, it hasn't. But when I came into distribution, I'd been in the fitness industry, running gyms, selling personal training, memberships, all this stuff, running clubs, and um, I'd never been in formal sales training before or anything like that. And so I come in, they give me about 7 to 10 days of product knowledge training, a pat on the back, a kick in the butt, go get them, Tiger. And I have a sales plan, a sales territory, and zero customers. What do you do with that? Right. And so,
10 days.
and it still happens today. It happens all the time. And it blows my mind. And we wonder why salespeople aren't successful. And we have conversations like, and there are going to be people listening to this that have had these conversations. And let's just think about this in context. Oh man, this dude's a superstar. He's going to come in and crush it. She's going to come in and crush it. They're going to be awesome. And then when they leave, you know what? They just really disappointed. They weren't picking up the business that they said they would or could, and all this stuff. And we keep blaming the talent when it's really something the companies are setting them up for failure, right? And what they're doing is they make everything about the training process for the salespeople about the product.
Mm,
It's what I'm selling, not who I'm serving and how I serve them. And
yes.
and so because of that, they think their success or their message or the gift that they are giving to the customers is the product, and it's not at all. The product might be a part of the solution, but it's not the answer, right? You are the answer. Me showing up, following up, being persistent in the pursuit of relationship with the customers that I know that could buy, benefit, or influence the purchase of my product, service, or solution, and knowing that I can serve them, knowing that I can help them, building a relationship with as many of those people as possible. The burden to which we go about our work. How do I find those people and serve those people and help those people and love those people? And when knowing that doing that, I've got a solution and a product and something that can really help them, but it's about I want to help them. That's the mission, that's the purpose. And the gift that you're given
Mm.
is your ability to build relationships with people. If you've like some people, you meet people and you're like, oh, you're just a natural for sales. I could see you being in sales. You're just such a natural.
Yeah.
You're just so natural at sales. That is because oftentimes these people have a more energetic, outgoing, positive energy about them. They are typically a little bit more vibrant in a social situation. They're typically more engaging, right? All of those things are gifts, gifts that you have been given in order to build relationships with people and learn how you can love them and care for them and serve them and help them. That's it. It's not about what you can get in return. It's about that. And so
Yeah. 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 That's
it,
amazing. I mean,
it's a change of the narrative.
it reminds me of it's almost this sort of internal reflection of that person needs to understand what their gifts are and how to discover that. And if building relationships is a gift, a a journey for them may be in this business, right? If they're in the right situation, the right environment. That's beautiful. I mean, that's That's amazing. So you mentioned packaging. I want to hang on there for a second because you spent 2 decades nearly in sales, biz dev, right? Big
Yep.
focus on packaging distribution. I mean, obviously, no doubt how passionate you are about that space. Um, looking back, can you talk about the experiences in that space and why you have such a desire and heart for that industry? Because I think it would be I think it would be I think it would be an interesting movie. But I don't think it'd be like The Social Network. There won't be a Social Network film about packaging, right? But I could be wrong. But
Right.
what led you? We know now why sales and biz dev, but why that space is not really the first industry that we think of when we think about sales and getting into sales.
Yeah. So many different ways to go there. I mean, first and foremost, the reason why I'm so passionate about helping this industry become better and why this industry and what it means to me is, you know, distribution in general. Let's just generalize it as distribution. It changed my life. Like it changed my life. when when I had just gotten married, I had been married for 6 months, and my best friend, the best man in my wedding, was living in Knoxville, Tennessee, and he was like, "Hey, man, you should come sell toilet paper with me in Knoxville." And I'm like, "No, dude, I'm good. I'm running gyms and clubs and this types of. I'm not interested, man." And he's like, "No, man, like come sell toilet paper with me." And so ended up
Sure.
moving. Yeah, why not? End up moving my family, my wife and I, from Birmingham, Alabama, up to Johnson City, Tennessee. Was the first town that I lived in Tennessee, and that's where I started my career in distribution and starting in janitorial and packaging supplies. We sold both, and you know, we were making a little bit more money moving into distribution, but then I learned how to use my gifts and to serve people and to do it at a really high level, and um, became very successful opening up new business in distribution and learning how to find ideal customers and the right people to connect with and the activity that's needed for to set meetings and all of those things. Like that became a skill set that I um, that quickly was realized was different than other people in sales. I had a different mentality. I had a different engine. I had it was just something that, man, and I found a love for it. Like I loved manufacturing. I grew up as a kid with my dad going to the TVA, the Pickwick Dam, and staying nights with him. And it's a power plant, but it's all turbines and all these things spinning. And I was just very enthralled with that world and how things move together. I think that's why I liked exercise science so much, the function of things together. And so I was like, man, I love packaging and man, selling stretch film and stretch wrappers and case erectors and tape and all this stuff is a lot more fun than selling toilet bowl cleaner and
Yeah.
toilet paper, right? And so I just created this skill set, and because of learning how to work in the packaging industry really, really well and in distribution really, really well, helping them be successful, I got recruited to the industry leader in stretch wrap equipment manufacturing, a company called Lantech, and worked for several years just in distribution and getting to meet more distributor reps like me that were out there and showing them how to be successful, showing them how to build territories and serve their customers. And dude, all of this time, the financial impact that it was making on my family because of this industry and now where we're able to live, the things that we're able to do, and this industry changed my life. And so I love distribution. I love packaging. I love janitorial. I've worked in all types of distribution, working and consulting with electrical, laundry equipment, all this type, right? They all struggle with the same stuff. how to find the right customers, how to get meetings with those customers, and how do they help keep sales reps and help sales reps get successful quicker so that they make money, so they stay, and so they reduce the churn. They have higher employee engagement. They have a more positive revenue stream. Their people are happy. Their salespeople are happy because they're making money, and their customers are happy because they are being loved on by these salespeople, creating these incredible experiences for them. I can help people do that. And when I see people that I help and I work, that they're making more money, they're setting more meetings, they're doing those things, and because of that, they're able to take care of their families differently and better, or maybe go on that vacation, or afford that wedding ring, or buy that vacation home, which has happened. Yeah, man, why not? Like, I just love
Yeah.
it.
That's awesome. And it seems like there's a lot of opportunity in that industry. Do you think they continue to struggle with the things that you talked about?
Yes, every day. Like, I still work with, and even now consult in distribution and all this stuff. It's why I wrote my book, right? You had mentioned at the beginning, um, was because as te- technologically advanced their products may be getting, they're still doing business and training and operating like it's 1993, right?
Yeah.
And so they still struggle with knowing who their customers are, who their real customers are, their ideal customers, who they really serve at a high level. They still struggle with understanding all of the different stakeholders and that could buy, benefit, or influence, how to find them, how to identify them, how to connect with them and build relationships with them. um, you know they still struggle with all this stuff because most of the time these distribution companies are still training on, it's about what I'm selling, not about who I'm serving and how I serve them.
Is that the result of kind of changing of the guards, changing of times, the shift of management that was there before has preconceived ideas of how things continue to run and how it was successful before? Or is it, do you see that shifting, or what's sort of your opinion on that?
The ones that are shifting, I think if you see shifting in it, you see it in pockets. You might not see it in all. So, like, let's say if you take a huge multi-site packaging distributor, I'm not maybe like a Veritiv. Okay, I'll just use a name. And Veritiv is a
Sure.
great company. They were a distributor of mine for a long time. Great company. I know a lot of people who still work there. Um, Martin, Bob, you guys, what's up? Little shout out. But um, I think that the challenge is that you have that shift in perspective in pockets. It's not full blown across the board. You have some younger leaders that are coming in into the packaging industry that are moving up in these companies that have see this different shift, but there's still a lot of the, what got us here will get us there, and that type of mentality. And it's just not the case. The market is changing, the consumers are changing, the avenues in which we can build relationships and familiarity and trust are changing. And if we're not taking advantage of all of those avenues to communicate with the people that we love to serve, then we're drastically limiting our ability to serve.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's
And I'm
solely
going
a
to say,
lot of,
and I got to say this too, and I
yeah.
mean this. I mean this from the bottom of my heart. If you truly believe what you do can help a customer, so like in the packaging industry, I knew working with Paragon stretch film, I knew selling a Lantech piece of equipment, that I could change my customer's ability to do what they do, to help them save money, to help them reduce damage when shipping their loads. I knew that I could do those things at a really high level and help them be more profitable, help them get more products to the people that they love to make products for. And so for me, it was one of those things. I became unwilling to settle for anything less than doing everything that I could possibly do to build as many relationships with those people that I could serve because I knew I could. Nothing stopped me. I didn't care if I was making cell phone videos, whatever it is. And to me, I think we little tangent. I think we need a little bit more of that. Like, we need to stop being scared to go after the people we love to serve. We need to start having have champions who are willing to do everything that they could do to go get it.
Do you think marketing's one of the blockers there?
I think the inability for sales and marketing to work together is a blocker there. I think there's so much marketing does, I sometimes say I'm a marketer trapped in a salesperson's body, because I believe in our ability to tell a story. I believe in our ability to understand how to educate our audience, the people we love to serve, about how we love to serve. Marketing plays a huge part of that. And so I think that's one of the things that we have to do is look at how can marketing help us as individual salespeople um, uh, communicate our message to the people that we love to serve, because the marketing people often have a better understanding of who our ideal customers are than we do. And so there's so many ways that they can help make sales teams better and more effective and more efficient. But right now, the relationship between the two of them is the blocker.
Yeah. In Harvard Business Review in 2006 released an article saying, quote, the title of it was "Ending the War Between Sales and Marketing." 17 years later, right? I think we're still having that similar challenges. And we feel like there still is a war between sales and marketing that a lot of people are trying to figure out. And it's interesting. One of the suggestions in this article back in 2006 was how to alleviate sort of this tension is to appoint a liaison between the two. So my question, I think I wanted to ask you, and I've been waiting to ask you, is this: if you were appointed a leader in this space, say like a chief revenue officer,
Mm-hmm.
right? So now it's your chess move now. Now, what would be your first move as that person between sales and marketing?
Ooh, my first move is this. Is I would bring us together as a team, right? The two sides. And I would say, okay, here's the goal. How do we take the things that you guys in marketing are incredible at and the things that you guys are in sales at, and how do we help find a way to magnify those things? And so I would start having us start these conversations about, hey, marketing, what do we understand about our audience? What do we understand about our customers? Have the salespeople, hey, how does that make sense for your biggest customers? Like the customers that they're our best partners. They love to work with us. And I would just start creating that conversation of getting us together, combined as a team, to better understand who we serve. And I think once we took the attention off of who's the most important, was marketing the most important or sales the most? No. Let's take the focus off of us and let's put the focus on who do we love to serve, and then how do we find as many of those people as possible to go serve them.
That's great. I mean, it's funny. I actually wrote down, is ego the enemy?
100% it is.
And I think it is. You're right. It is getting rid of this sort of preconceived notion that marketers are creatives and versus sales who cares about cash. So it was creatives versus cash. And I think that's been the mantra for a long time. And even back in 2006, when this was published, it still seems to be a very much head-to-head combat about who gets things done and how it gets done, where
Mm-hmm.
there's always a bottom line to survive. And I think that's a great first move.
Well, and it's like this. It's there's two different analogies I thought about for this. there's this one which I don't know that I love, but think of marketing as the sniper, and think of sales as the rifle and the bullet. Okay. Or think of marketing as Cupid and sales as the arrow.
Gotcha.
They
Yeah.
have to work together. Marketing can help us get laser focused on who we serve, how we best serve them, the people that we should be building relationships with, how we should be communicating our stories to those people so that we're connecting with them, we're building value, we're educating, all of those things. And then and then and then they shoot that out through the salespeople to go touch the hearts of their ideal customers by empowering them and propelling them out into the market to serve the hearts of our ideal customers. And like there's such an integral piece there of how to understand the salesman's part in the feedback of what adjustments the one doing the aiming needs to make.
Correct. And the recipient of that is the folks that they need, they have a need, and they're just looking for that person to come in and kind of have a potential solution for them.
Yep.
Let's hang on sales for a bit, because I think that's, I love talking to you about sales because that's not my wheelhouse, and I think people will, no, really, I think people will learn so much from you about sales in general. But let's dig a little deeper. I recently read another article, did some of my research. It was an article in Destination CRM, and it talked a lot about top of funnel versus bottom funnel, right? Article by Jim Dickey, I believe. It was just recently. It was there was a quote in there that I found really interesting, and I love to get your take on it. What you feel is sort of your position in this sort of statement, and I'll read the quote real quick. And it's talk about what's going on today, kind of in the marketplace, the economy. We're feeling, everyone's feeling a lot of stress here. We have no idea what's going to happen in the next 6, 8, 12 months. The quote: as we recently wrapped up Q1 2003, and I'll paraphrase some of this, not so long. If history is any guide, many sales organizations might as well be starting to feel nervous about hitting the revenue goals for the year, based on the fact that sales cycles always get longer in the face of economic uncertainty. Adding more deals to the top of the funnel might not be a practical way to move the revenue dial for 2023. Instead, sales organizations could be better served by looking to provide their teams with sales enablement tools to close more of their already existing opportunities. This is top of funnel versus bottom funnel. Where do you stand in terms of opportunities? When you talked about relationships and in general success when it comes to sales, where do we focus, in your opinion? Where should we laser in with that arrow?
Here's what I think is incredibly interesting about this, and you're actually probably going to not see this coming out of my mouth. Like I think maybe you think I might take it a different route. I don't understand why it has to be either or. Why can't it be yes and? Like it's the problem. That is the problem with why organizations struggle in revenue growth, because they make it about either or instead of yes and. Yes, you have the ability, because of already pre-existing relationships within opportunities. And that is now, here's a caveat to that. That is if the data or the opportunities that are entered into your CRM that you see on your pipeline are actual real activity versus crap that's been put in there to fill a pipeline quota, right? So assuming that these opportunities are legitimate and that there's valid relationships that have been built there, and there's value that can be, that's going to be the easiest route to close business because they're pre-existing relationships. But if you're not focused on building net new relationships, you'll lose. But that's a problem. The reason why, Carlo, companies believe that, and why I think that this guy's statement is so incredibly interesting, is companies believe the focus constantly has to be on net new because they're losing so many customers that probably should have never been customers to begin with, because they're not your ideal customers. They don't fit how you serve. So a lot of distribution margin, like gross revenue year over year after EBITDA and all that stuff, is about 1.5%. Okay. Churn in a lot of these organizations is incredibly high on customers. Like, I've seen churn rates as like 40, 30, 20%. I think somewhere around in there is industry average. It may be a little bit lower now, but when I was really in it, that was it. So you're losing 20% of your customers or business. So you've got to pick up new business every year. The reason why that is because we're oftentimes losing customers because they're not our ideal customers. They're not the people that we can serve in multiple different ways. We've not built the right relationships at our right customers. And so we lose the ones that don't fit. But because we think of it as, well, I just lost customers, we're willing to go after anybody and everybody. We tell sales reps in the packaging industry, this is how I was told. Go, go call on as many people as you can. You got to pick up as many customers as you can. Well, how do I know which ones are the right customers? Well, if they can ship something, they're the right customer. That's not the truth. But we focus our time and our effort with the wrong people at the wrong companies, and then we lose them. And so it becomes this constant transition battle. If we spent more time finding and connecting with our ideal customers, the people that we can serve so at Lantech, when we did this with the systems integrator team that I led, if you wanted to be a customer, a true partner with Lantech and the systems integration team, then you had to be able to, you wanted to build relationships. You needed to give us access to all of your applications engineers. You had to be able to sell both of our product lines, stretch wrappers and case erectors and case sealers. We had to do joint planning together and all of these things. We had to fit this criteria. If you did not fit the criteria, we weren't focusing a lot of our time on you, because now we were wanting to build wider and deeper relationships with the people that we knew we could serve at a really high level and really bring a lot of value to the market with. And the next thing you know, your churn rate goes down because you're building more relationships with the right customers.
Can you talk a little bit more about wider and deeper? Sort of that phrase and that strategy you have that you just mentioned.
Yeah. So the wider and deeper strategy, it's really just relationship-based selling is what it is. But the idea of it is, and if you think about it in distribution now, so I've done this training with lots of janitorial and packaging distributors, laundry equipment distributors, and electrical, right? So these are the industries that I've done a lot of consulting in. And this is what I ask them. If you look at your industry and your products, what you do, what are all the products that you can sell? And we list them all out. I'm like, cool. I was like, now I want you guys to think about, let's say, a manufacturing company, food and beverage manufacturer. Who are all the people that could buy, benefit, or influence the purchase of your product, services, or solutions within that company? So you start out, if it's food and beverage, and let's say it's a janitorial and packaging supply company. Well, it's shipping, operations, VP of ops, plant manager, maintenance, EVS, quality, janitorial staff, facility manager, line worker, shift worker, supply chain and logistics manager, procurement, right? Right there, there's 14 people who could buy, benefit, or influence the purchase of your product, service, or solution. each one of those people could potentially influence multiple product lines,
More.
right?
Yeah.
And so now we're talking about having conversations with way more people within one account. And so we're talking about creating opportunities. It's the money ball. It's money ball
Right.
sales.
Yeah.
And
Love
it's
it.
just how many runs can we create within a
Within.
single account? And so you build relationships with all those people. But here's what you don't realize. Like literally, I wrote the book, Double Your Sales in 12 months. You want to double your sales in 12 months? Do this and do it with your current customers and go out and find the new ones and do it there too. But literally, you create all of these opportunities within one building. So now you're shipping more stuff to one. So your margin goes up. Now you have so many relationships in there. The customer's more sticky, less churn. Because if that new person, let's say someone leaves, let's say Joe in the shipping department leaves, and that's the only relationship you have, which packaging professionals, I know most of you, there's a lot of you that only have that relationship. Stop it. But if you only know Joe in shipping and Joe leaves or gets fired or God forbid dies,
Yeah. You
and
don't.
Jimmy comes in, your relationship's done because Jimmy was working down the street and he's got a relationship with your competitor. And next thing you know, you've lost your business. If you know 17 people in your customer and you're loving and caring about them and serving them, and Jimmy comes in, he's going to have to convince 16 people to change their business from you to his new guy that they don't know, that they don't have a relationship with. And the risk of change is greater than the risk of staying where they are. So they stay. You lose less customers, you make more money. It's not rocket science. It's just go build relationships with people, man. Ask questions, be curious.
Yeah. I think it's when you hear yourself, when I hear you talk about wider and deeper, and I think this is where marketers, hey marketers, if you're out there listening, doesn't that resonate really well with us on ABM, account-based marketing?
I love account-based
and,
marketing.
and what if we use those two together, right? And I think that is the bridge that needs to be built to maybe start to win those battles between sales and marketing, because we all have very similar thought processes and ideas of how to, either tactical or strategy, how to approach a relationship. And I think there are some similarities that could be there.
Well, and think about this, Carlos. So I've gone through several with my with working as a global, like, go to market person and in different things. Like, I've worked with marketing in global organizations, right? Huge global organizations, and on an account-based marketing strategy for customers in the CPG segment in food and beverage. Okay. So one of the things we do, there are 3 different levels to the ABM, right? Like, and the way that we look at it, you have a one-to-one, company to company, right? Company to, max out. You have one to a few, and then one to many.
Mm-hmm.
Think about this with a sales rep being able to do the one to many approach, more direct to the exact stakeholder, all of those stakeholders that they need to be relationships with, inviting them into a conversation about how that salesperson could potentially serve them or work with them, or how they've helped other people, or like, hey, I just want to get to know you because I work with people like you. Imagine being able to do that at scale. And it's account-based marketing, one to many.
Mm-hmm.
But individualized and authentic.
Yeah. And that requires time, right? And I think that's when you look at time, as it ties back to what we were talking about, that article in uncertainty. And I think when there's scarcity, time becomes, we're very scared because we think we're lacking that time. And how do we leverage for that? I think is the big question. How do we leverage time and scale to be able to do the things we need to do faster, not necessarily more unauthentic, but in the right context. And I think that's
Yeah.
when we start to look at and get pretty nervous, right, about business. And these sort of storms in our life start to creep in. I've been there. And it's dealing with what I love about what you're talking about is not just so tactical, but that it also ties back to how you talk about leading yourself
Mm.
and dealing with these uncertainties and technologies and new things you don't know about.
Do you know what the problem with uncertainties are, Carlo, especially in sales? If you're uncertain about your future, if you're uncertain about your customers' buying cycle,
mhm,
the sales cycle, if you're uncertain about investing in your people to help them be better salespeople, well, the the first problem is that you're focusing on yourself and not who you serve. Number one problem,
yeah,
because if companies and organizations focus on serving and building relationships with as many people as they could serve, they wouldn't be worried about a recession. They wouldn't be worried about customers buy because people would be banging down the door to work with them. And so when you look at this, it's like, because we talk a lot about automation and using automation and how can automation still be authentic and all of those things. Look, it's the same issues and challenges that they had when video games came out, and then newsletters, blah. And then when podcasts, nobody's going to listen to podcasts. And then it was, YouTube. Well, nobody's going to watch videos on YouTube.
right,
Nobody's going to learn about sales on YouTube. Nobody does that. Nobody talks about leadership on YouTube. And now look at it. The problem is we've got to start looking at automation as a tool that we could use to serve more people.
yeah,
or or sorry, apparently my wife's can you hear that?
no,
Oh, my wife's weed eating outside. um but like, all of this stuff is a tool, and the earlier you get on board with learning how to use the tool,
yeah,
to authentically use the tool to connect and build relationships with the people you want to connect and build relationships with, then the more successful you're going to be. Because again, you stop thinking about what are we going to, or recession and all this stuff. No, think the conversation needs to be, how do we go pedal to the metal, double, triple down on finding the people that we serve the best and going and building as many relationships as possible with them. If
yeah,
that's your focus, you're not going to worry about salespeople leaving. You're not going to have to worry about economic downturn, because you won't have time, because you will be working with so many people, making so much money. You won't have time to worry about those things because you'll be in the now. You serve people in the now. You worry about tomorrow. If you're in
right.
tomorrow, you can't serve.
Yeah, so I mean, you sort of answered my next question around, how do you really begin to lead in times of situations that are stressful or troubling, right? How do we get over those things? And I think you're saying that part of it is looking for new ways and being open to figuring out how to serve your customer better, even if it makes you a little bit more uncomfortable.
Yeah. Why? I mean, why not? Why not? They're the reason why we're here anyway. Your product only exists because because someone was having a problem that needed to be fixed. That's the only reason why your product exists.
Yeah, yeah,
Right. And so if that's the case, find as many of those people who struggle with those same issues and go love on them and let them know that there's somebody there to help, and that there's somebody there that understands and cares about that issue, and look, you like, that's what selling is. And I'm telling you, it radically changes the game, because the focus is, you can't focus on yourself and be strategic about how you're serving, because you're only looking at yourself. So you can't actually see the people you're serving, how you're serving them, where you're serving them, the best way that you're serving them. And since you're only looking at you, a lot of these companies and a lot in distribution, they're grabbing at straws, trying to figure it out when the answer is right there in front of them. Look at your best customers.
Right.
What is it about them that makes them your best customer? What all do they buy from you? Who are all the people that you have relationships in there? What do they say? Not what do they say your value is as a company? Not what you think your value is to them, but go ask them, hey, why do you really work with us? What value do you believe we bring to your organization? Learn those things from your best customers.
Hmm.
And then go find as many of similar, as many companies that are similar to that as possible, and go do the same thing and go do the same thing.
Yeah, I mean that it goes to the fact that you're trying to even get to know your customers who are great ones even better, and it plays
Mhm.
into the how do you get that 1% better, right? I love that term because what it tells me is that you're not looking for that incremental 20% jump, 50% change. You're looking for that small thing that could make a difference, and I think that in turn resonates caring, that you care about the little details about the relationship versus, well, when you're different, let's talk, versus what can I do to build this relationship.
Yeah.
Small
And
small stones, right?
yeah, and not making it about what the immediate return is, right? And like I get it. I know that we have metrics. I know that we've got to measure success in sales and all of those things. But I think part of the issue is that our metrics and the things that we're measuring are making our salespeople transactional. And so we have sales managers that are barking at their teams, build relationships, build relationships. You got to build more relationships. When they get with them, they're like, how many calls have you made this week? How many quotes have you sent out? What's your pipeline size? What's closing at the end of this quarter? How much money are you going to be closing at the end of this quarter? How much revenue you're going to be bringing in? We Where's the questions about the relationships? I thought it was about relationships. Now you're telling me, oh, it's no, it's not. You don't really want me building relationships. You want me hitting numbers.
Hmm.
Okay, so then I'm only going to focus on the numbers. And so, there's a part of that we've got to understand that sales is the byproduct of the relationships we build. And so, we need to be having the conversation. Oh, hey, John, Carlo, you've been working with that customer now for 4 months. You picked up their business with stretch film, and how's that going with them? Oh, it's really good. Hey, so who do you have relationships in there with right now? Well, I know the shipping manager and then the purchasing person, because they're the ones that cuts the PO. Oh, awesome. So hey, who else are you planning on building relationships with over the next 2 weeks within that customer?
Hmm.
Right? Like, our conversations need to be about who else are you building relationships with?
And how can you
How
serve them? Yeah.
and how can you serve them? And all the other stuff will come. You can still measure all of that stuff. It's just the avenue to get there
Hmm.
um, creates longevity.
Yeah.
It creates raving fans for life, right? Evangelical fans about what you do.
Yeah.
That's what we're moving towards. If everything's transactional, my goodness, man, like you'll run yourself into the ground.
And you know, and why is that so attractive? I guess not attractive, but when you look at movies, or you look at social media and you're seeing these salespeople on there, and then it's all about like crushing goals, and you're not doing X, and I mean, the way you explain sales and the way you explain serving people is such a like a huge tectonic shift in the way we think about sales. And I know other people do think about that stuff too, but the majority of people that are out there, that I guess what we're seeing is like this hard nose, you know, going 100 miles an hour. What are your metrics? And why do we continue to buy into that though?
Um,
I guess as entertainment.
well, because again, we think it's all about the money.
Hmm.
we think that's we think the money is the definition of what makes us successful.
Hmm.
And so when we look at that, that's the flashier part of sales. If you're really good at sales, you make a lot of money, and when you make a lot of money, you have a lot of freedom to do whatever you want to do and live your life however you want to live it, and all this stuff. And in the real reality of it, man, like I look at people who are solely income based professionals, and maybe I haven't met any that have contradicted me to this statement, that on the outside they may look like they have it all and that everything's perfect, but then when you get in real private conversation with them, they're struggling, and they've had failed marriages, and they've got poor relationship with their kids because, at this point their whole entire life has been about the income and making more money and doing all this stuff, and not the relationships that they built, until one day they turn around and look, and the relationships that they should have been building that were the most important to begin with are gone. And it's at that point they're like, man, I think I really did it wrong. But at this point, they've been used to this life for so long, they don't know how to get back to it. And man, I just think it's really easy to glamorize um it's easy to look at a bodybuilder and be like, man, I want to look like that. Man, I'm going to look like that. John Maxwell, I heard him say it. He has guys come up to him all the time, and they're like, man, I want to be just like you, John. I want to do what you do. I want to do what you do. And he said, but nobody wants to do what I did. And the doing, the doing, the building of the relationships, that's the most important part. That's the goal, man. That's the purpose of life, is serving other people, and building meaningful relationships with people. And you see people that are incredibly, I'm meeting way more incredibly successful people who have been service minded their entire life, that are going, yeah, we hope nobody else finds out about this, because the competition will get stiffer, but people know about it. There's a difference between knowledge and wisdom. People know service is the best way to do it, but knowledge into action, that's wisdom. So a lot of people know this, they just don't put it into action, which is why they don't reap the longevity of the benefits and the return, that a lot of these other companies are doing.
Man, Jonathan, thank you so much for starting to build that bridge and bridge that gap, not just in, between sales and marketing, but, in the way we approach our lives, or approach leadership, approach relationships. And can't wait to have this, have another opportunity to do this again, because I think this is like, part one for sure of many that we need to really dig into. Thanks so much for your insights, man. I appreciate it. Your friendship. This has been amazing. We'll put everything in the notes of, the articles we mentioned, all the details, where you can find Jonathan, where you can find more about this podcast. So until next time, I appreciate you guys. Thank you, Jonathan, again, for spending this time with me, during the day, carving it out. And we will talk to you guys later.
Yeah, man. Later.